All right, well, welcome everybody. So for tonight's webinar on close continuing the comments or the discussion. So if you have any questions at all on there, some ideas or anything like that, just go ahead and type them in there, and then either I'll be able to get to them, or hopefully someone else will, because you guys have been really helpful in there of answering other people's questions. So I will go ahead and let Karen take it away here.
Co-founder of Insert Learning, and on tonight's webinar we are going to go over what some people call close reading. So I thought I would go over just in general kind of what close reading is, and then give you some examples in some lessons here. So the first thing that I think is really important, if you're really interested in close reading, it's really easy just to Google and find some resources. Like, here's a really good resource that's about the Common Core standards and close reading that really is for like any kind of teacher in any content area. I will put that in the webinar in the resources. So a lot of what I got comes from here, because I kind of just want to do some basics. Since I am a language arts teacher, I didn't want to go too full into it. I would love to do some training with you if you'd like, but otherwise I'm just going to go pretty quick on some stuff. So first, I just thought I'd go over what close reading is using a lesson example. So I found from this resource here, it's Today in History, actually it's a Library of Congress resource, this awesome article here about the first woman who won the Iditarod on this day in history in 1985. So the thing about close reading, and it's a little different than what a lot of us are used to, is you do not have any pre-reading activities. It should be limited pre-reading activities. So that means you're not going to have a bunch of building background knowledge at the beginning. So one thing you could do, though, is you could have directions at the beginning. And I like to use the sticky note here for that. So I would put a sticky note here that would have my directions. And another thing that's very specific about close deliberately. That means they're going to have specific things that they're looking for, which in general is going to be tied to a standard. So what I really like here, oops, didn't mean to click there. What I really like here is we do have lesson ideas and templates for the direction part that I've made up that could be things that they are specifically looking for. Main idea, supporting details, vocabulary, words. So I'm just going to copy that, click out of here, and I'm going to paste that. Oops. Karen can't paste. Paste that right in there. So now I have directions for my students. I have limited pre-reading activities. I got directions right there. I didn't even have to write them. And it's them reading deliberately. And you can totally change this. It's totally fine. What this direction does too, besides them reading deliberately, looking for the main idea and the supporting detail, they're also marking the text. So marking the text is students reacting questions about highlighting, marking the text for vocabulary words. However, you could have them marking the text with words that you've used in your lessons before. You could have them marking the text. One thing I really like to do, I think that's fun with marking the text, is have them mark the text. Let's just do a different one here. Mark the text while reading. Use the comment highlight tool to mark 3 things that you are surprised by and 3 things you learn. And then what was really fun, right, is when students highlight something, they can click the plus and they can do a comment and they could say, one thing I learned, and then you could have them use the emojis for you know, to show what they've learned. So maybe for learning, it's the smarty pants emoji, right? So then students are marking the text as well. So that's really fun. That's a fun way to get students marking the text and being part of that as well. So I'm going to delete that though, because that would be a teacher highlight. So just to summarize so far, limited pre-reading activities where they're looking for specific things and they might be marking the text. That could be that, that could be that. You can pick what you want to do. Another thing that they could be doing is marking confusion. So you could tell students, let's do another direction here. Obviously you wouldn't have all of these directions in one lesson. You wouldn't have all of these. You'd pick one for one lesson and then do multiple different lessons over the course of the school year. So another one would be mark your confusion in the text. Use the green, well, or whatever color you want, yellow color to highlight things that you are confused about. So that's another way that students can mark the text. Okay, so that's all about students interacting with the text, and that what you would be doing in sticky notes, okay? Another thing that's very close reading is having text-dependent to go back to the text to answer. So you could be doing that with the question tool, obviously, and you could be doing that with either open-ended questions or multiple choice questions. The important thing is that they are just text dependent. So if I look at this first sentence, I could write a question here. How many years has it been since the first woman won? Click create, and then they could have a open-ended question here. I could also add a text-dependent question that's multiple choice. What started the root of the race? And then I can just type here to make a multiple choice one. A epidemic. It was fun. It was already a trail. Then mark the correct answer here. So text-dependent questions are really, really important. Another thing that's really important with close reading is that students are discussing with other people. And obviously, Insert Learning has the discussion tool. So maybe after this map here, we want to have a discussion. So we can say, reread the paragraph above, right? Because you want them to keep going back to the text, even with the discussion. Argue for or against the idea that buying Alaska was a good move. They say that in the paragraph above. Use at least one thing you've learned from the text. So once again, they're going back to the text. So then that's a live discussion that students can be having based on the text. So those are the main things that you can do for close reading. I do want to talk about one more thing that we do for close reading, which is having multiple reads for close reading. And I want to show you over here with this Google Doc. So the thing is, you can use Google Docs with Insert Learning. You just have to do a cool trick here. But before I show you the cool trick, one thing is doing multiple reads, usually like 3 different reads of the same text, kind of going deeper each time is a close reading thing. So I have just a poem here, and I've put it in a Google Doc and written first read, second read, third read, okay? So what I'm going to do, so I can use it with Insert Learning, is I'm going to click File, Publish to the Web, Publish, okay. And I'm going to copy that link, and I'm going to paste that link into a new window here. So there is that, and then I can click my Insert Learning extension, and once the toolbar is done loading, now I have an Insert Learning lesson where I can do multiple reads. So the first read is always just about key ideas and details, usually. So what that means is those text-dependent questions, right? So I actually have some questions pulled up. Where are they? Here we go. Some text-dependent questions that I am going to insert here, down here. So we can, right? So it's up to you how many questions you want to have, but like I said, that first time through is always going to else. Got to find the wanted where line here. Here it is. Right, and then I even have my multiple choice questions that I could quickly paste in there, right? That's going to automatically turn into multiple choice questions. So that is super easy and super do multiple choice questions. You can do open-ended questions. The thing with the first read is that they are just always text dependent and about the key ideas and details. So you could fill that first read up with tons of questions, okay? So then the second read is more about, and so craft and structure, and then also you kind of want to focus on like one part of it. So I only took one stanza this time. So I'm going to put some directions here though for the second read. I'm going to say read the stanza. Okay, so I'd want students to reread the stanza, then answer the questions. So a question that I'm going to have here is justify what you think the tone of on the word sigh. Okay, so they're going to have to answer that. Oh, what I did forget is what's awesome, right, is know what tone is in poetry. So instead of having to you know, teach the entire class, you can just use a sticky note. Where are we? We are over here. You can just use a sticky note to embed. If you don't know what tone is, watch this video. And there we go. Now we have that YouTube video right there so students know what that is. So the second time through, you're really having them synthesize and analyze stuff, right? You're really having those text-dependent questions. You're having with the craft and the structure, right? So tone is a craft thing. If you have more questions about this, right, just get some sources online about close reading, or just some sources about Common Core standards. And then the third time, you really, really want to, I made a mistake earlier, this is where you want them to synthesize and analyze the ideas from this text compared to other sources. So one thing I like to do with this, read a version of the same ideas that might be somewhere different. So I'm going to say, read the poem again, then watch this video and answer the questions. And I off the poem so that I can just paste that in there. So now I'm going to have questions this poem. So explain which scene in the movie is stanza. Okay. So that's kind of a dependent on the movie, and then maybe down here I could, go back to that discussion thing, and I can say argue if the film version is well, I don't want to say good, but since I'm trying to go fast, I'm going to say good. A good version a good, let's say, representation. Representation of the poem or not. Use evidence. Okay, so I have multiple readings there, right? So it's a longer lesson, but those are two different types of lessons that you can do for close reading, and you can really do that with any sort of content area, right? Because you can do it on any website pretty much. So anyway, I hope that helped you learn about how to do close reading. And like I said, feel free to contact any of us, especially me, if you'd like to get a little more training about close reading. And in that public library, you can look for anything that I've made, and it's so thanks. Feel free to send us questions if you have any questions at all.